Questioned the director of Immigration and Customs Enforcement. At issue, why over a 3-year period more than 86,000 criminal illegal immigrants have been released by ICE into the American public. Here is the heated exchange between House Oversight Committee member Congressman Jim Jordan and ICE Director Sarah Saldana earlier today.
So again, when you break it down, people came here illegally, did a crime, many cases violent crime, were in your custody. The law says they're supposed to be deported, and at your discretion, not because their country wouldn't take them back, you couldn't get travel documents, or notwithstanding other reasons, but over half of those 86,000 where you just decided you were just going to not follow the law, you were going to release them.
I disagree with that. We do follow the law.
But the fact remains, you release them.
After a careful analysis of each case.
Careful analysis. My guess is the families who are here, I also want to express my condolences to, would disagree with your careful analysis.
ICE's own statistics reveal last year alone that ICE released nearly 20,000 criminal illegal immigrants who had committed 64,000 crimes. That includes 196 related to homicide, 216 kidnappings, 614 sex offenses, and more than 800 robberies. President Obama's open borders policy doesn't apply to his own residents. The Secret Service announcing a proposal that would raise the White House fence by 5 feet. That comes after a series of high-profile security breaches, including a fence jumper just earlier this week, which put the White House on lockdown. One particular candidate finds the development amusing. Donald Trump, writing on Facebook, quote, "President Obama understands that you build strong, tall, beautiful walls to keep people out who don't belong," end quote. People who get permission can enter the White House legally. We're coming right back with much more. Stay with us. A lot to cover. Donald Trump is on track to win the most primary votes of any Republican presidential candidate in history.
We're going to break the record by millions of votes by the time it ends. By millions.
Will the GOP join the presumptive nominee in victory, or will they continue their senseless resistance?
The public, and they're committing more crimes. And I don't understand why you don't deport them.
To sit there and say that the proud women and men of law enforcement and ICE are choosing to release criminals is absolutely unforgivable. I am very proud of representing those men and women. Many of them are former police officers, sheriff's department members, and they do not go around trying to put criminals on the streets.
House Oversight and Government Reform Committee Chairman who led today's hearing, Congressman Jason Chaffetz, goes on the record. Good evening, sir.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Okay, so there are some people who are released who are criminals, right? From prison. They're in prison because they're criminals.
More than 86,000 of them over a 3-year period.
Okay. Who makes the decision to release them? Because, I mean, and how do they pick and choose?
Well, it seems to be random, but everything from homicide to DUIs to assault to sexual battery to, I mean, you name the violent crime, they have released them back out in the public rather than either detaining them or, even better yet, deporting them. Remember,
are these people who have been arrested for these crimes and have gotten sentences?
They're here illegally. They committed a crime. They were convicted of that crime. They either served that time or they just released them back out in the public instead of actually saying, now that you've served your sentence, your debt to the United States, we're going to send you back to the country from which you came. They don't do that.
Why don't they do that?
It's ridiculous. There's no acceptable answer. They tried to reprogram over $100 million that Congress had allocated for these deportations. They wanted to give that money back rather than do it. They have a minimum of 34,000 beds for these types of people, yet the department only wants to house about 30,000. And what they've done is they've released them out into the streets. And more than 200 of those people that were in our detention that had committed a crime were released back out in the public and committed homicide.
Well, I mean, when somebody obviously makes a decision, okay, we're going to release you, and we're going to release you to the street, we're not going to deport. Who does that?
The Department of Homeland Security.
Okay, who is that? Is that like one person who's got the job, some nameless, faceless bureaucrat in the government who gets to make that decision?
You look at Jay Johnson, who's the secretary, then you look at the director of, who's with us today, who's the director of Immigration and Customs Enforcement, and they're not doing it. Some of them get deported, but when you release 86,000 people over 3 years into the public that had already committed crimes,
but all you have to do is look at their crimes. I mean, if they're felonies, I mean, I mean, if you've like stolen a pack of gum from the grocery store, that's very different. But if you've been convicted of murder, that's different.
More than 12,000 of these were DUIs. And I think that's a fairly
It's a very serious crime. I agree.
But everything from sexual assault to robbery to homicide.
How many were released in 2015?
Well, the 86,000, it represents 3 years, so basically divided by 3. I mean, not even one is acceptable. And we heard witnesses today whose family members were killed. And how do you look those people in the eye? I mean, they should be out of the country. One of the excuses is, well, those countries won't take them back.
Just drop them off.
Don't give them any more foreign aid and do what the law says, and that is make sure the Secretary of State does not give those countries any more visas so more people can come to this country. Get their attention.
Mr. Chairman, thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Greta.